Welcome back to The Explainer. Consider this our safe, completely judgment-free zone today as we jump right into a guided self-reflection session. Think of me as your personal guide, or hey, even your therapist for the next few minutes, walking you through a seriously effective clinical tool. If you've ever found yourself totally stuck in an unhelpful habit and thought, why on earth do I keep doing this? Or why can't I just do the things I know I'm supposed to do? Well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're taking a really structured, highly visual approach to mapping out our own actions. Let's get into it.
Here is what we are tackling today. We've got mapping the chain reaction, a procrastination case study, the missing links analysis, building better coping skills, and finally, habits for long-term well-being.
Okay, part one, mapping the chain reaction and understanding the setup. Because honestly, we simply cannot change a behavior if we don't understand the exact sequence of events that led up to it. Take a look at this. This brilliantly illustrates the classic clinical chain analysis diagram we'll be using. You know, behavior doesn't just happen out of nowhere, right? It's literally a chain of overlapping links. It starts with some kind of vulnerability, gets sparked by a prompting event, and then moves through a very specific series of links, like thoughts, feelings, and actions, until bam, we hit the problem behavior, which obviously creates consequences. Think of this as a timeline stretching across your entire day. If you want to stop a problem behavior, you can't just magically slam the brakes at the very end. It doesn't work like that. You have to trace it all the way back to that initial vulnerability factor and figure out how to intervene somewhere along those earlier links. Moving right along to section 2, a procrastination case study. We're going to ground this in a real-life example and walk through one full scenario, from the triggering event all the way to a positive outcome. Let's break down the exact text for the first 5 steps of our chain analysis worksheet using something we all struggle with, putting off a major work project. So, step 1, the problem behavior is putting off the project. Step 2, the prompting event. Let's say you get an email from your boss asking for a progress update. Step 4, the chain of events. Maybe you feel this immediate tightness in your chest. You think, I absolutely cannot handle this right now. And so you open up social media instead of the project file. And step 5, the consequence. Way more panic and rushing later that night. But hold on, let's zoom in on step 3 for a second. Step 3 asks us to look backward at the vulnerabilities. We're talking biological and environmental factors that basically prime you for a breakdown. Stuff like a lack of sleep, skipping lunch, or maybe you're already dealing with intense emotions like sadness or fear. In our procrastination example, maybe you only slept 4 hours the night before? Well, that makes you highly vulnerable to completely shutting down the exact second that stressful email from your boss arrives. Now look at this split screen for this specific link in the chain. On the left, instead of the problem behavior, just putting off the task and walking away, we can look to the right and practice opposite action. Before you walk away, you force yourself to open the document and commit to writing just one single sentence. We are literally swapping out a rusted link in the chain and replacing it with a reinforced one. So, I invite you to hit pause on this explainer right now. Grab your dedicated daily journal and practice drafting out the prompting event for your own chain. Seriously, think of a recent time you engaged in a behavior you want to change. What was the exact event in the environment that kicked it off? What happened right before the urge hit you? Taking the time to actually record these reflections in your journal is where the real magic happens. Okay. Let's pivot to section 3, the missing links analysis. If chain analysis is for when you do something ineffective, missing links analysis is for when you fail to do something effective, like forgetting to use your coping skills. The whole trick here is answering these 4 very specific questions to uncover exactly what's blocking your progress. Ask yourself, did I even know what I was supposed to do? Was I actually willing to do it? Did I even remember to do it? And if I remembered and was willing, what stopped me in my tracks right then and there? You know what a massive barrier is that we almost always ignore? Unclear instructions. If you answer no to that first question, meaning you genuinely didn't know what was expected, the problem isn't laziness, it's just a lack of clarity. So the solution is immediate problem solving. Don't let the confusion paralyze you. Pick up the phone, write the email, and ask for clarification right away so you actually have the instructions you need. But what if you knew what to do, you just didn't want to do it? You felt totally inadequate or demoralized. That is where radical acceptance is an absolute lifesaver. Sometimes reality is just frustrating, and you might feel willful thinking, I shouldn't have to deal with this. Radical acceptance means totally dropping the fight against reality. You acknowledge the situation exactly as it is. It
It releases that huge emotional drain of willfulness and frees up your energy so you can actually do what needs to be done. And if you're really struggling with that willingness, creating a simple pros and cons list can drastically improve your motivation for changing ingrained habits. Yes, the cons are real, it takes immediate mental effort, and you have to face uncomfortable feelings. But look at the pros, reducing your long-term stress and building deep self-trust. Those far, far outweigh the cons. All right, section 4, building better coping skills. We know exactly where the chain breaks down. So what tools do we use to replace those broken links? When those really strong urges arise, coming back to your senses is an incredibly powerful grounding technique. If you feel the urge to procrastinate, literally bring your mind back into your physical body. Observe with your eyes, look out the window and notice the clouds. Observe sounds. Listen to the hum of the heater in your room. Doing this instantly regulates your nervous system, giving you that absolutely crucial pause before you act on the urge. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, the thought to use a coping skill literally never enters my mind in the heat of the moment, I hear you. That is totally normal when you're stressed. So, outsource your memory. I highly suggest setting calendar alarms on your phone to trigger your memory at specific times during the day. Set a daily alarm for 2 p.m. that just says, breathe and observe. And that brings us to section 5, habits for long-term well-being. Because ultimately, every single step we've talked about connects back to your main goal of long-term mental well-being and daily mood stability. Let's look at the final steps of the worksheet, which are all about prevention and repair. Step 6 asks you to detail the skillful behaviors you'll use next time. Step 7 is your prevention plan. How are you going to get better sleep to reduce that vulnerability? And step 8 is huge, repair. If your problem behavior caused harm, how do you make it right? Taking ownership and overcorrecting that harm builds immense self-respect. Here is the most crucial takeaway for this part. After every single analysis, focus on setting just one small, achievable goal. Do not try to overhaul your entire personality overnight. If your vulnerability was a lack of sleep, your only goal today might be putting your phone in another room 30 minutes earlier. That's it. Keep it incredibly small and completely doable. To make sure you're actively replacing those ineffective behaviors, here's a quick summary checklist for your daily consistency check-ins. Keep this handy, record in your journal, ask questions early when you're confused, practice radical acceptance when things get tough, rely on those calendar alarms, and always pick just one small goal. As we wrap up, I want you to remember this foundational rule. The purpose of all this structured analysis is solely to figure out causes and plan for problem solving. It is not for self-judgment. Actually, let me repeat that. You are not analyzing your behavior to beat yourself up. You are doing it to become an absolute expert on yourself so you can solve the exact problems keeping you stuck. So, I'm going to end our session today with a question to really spark your curiosity and hopefully leave you eager to practice this on your own. What is one ineffective link in your behavior chain that you can replace with a skillful action today? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Be really kind to yourself as you practice these tools, and I absolutely cannot wait to see the progress you make.